So what's your scariest moment in an aircraft?
All right. There are two ways that you can hurt yourself or get into these moments that you wish you'd never gotten into. And one of them is self-inflicted, and I have some examples of that. And the other is failure, which is totally out of your hands. Now, you might have put it into a situation where the equipment failed, so it can be both or one or the other. For first cruise. I made 2 cruises in the Ranger, and the first one was 9 months, and the second was 6 months, and that was 80, 81, and then 82. And you always look up to the guys senior you. We called them nuggets, first cruise pilots, and I was a nugget. One guy was a previous F4 driver, and I'm watching the Platinum ready room, and he's on alert 5, and and they launch alert 5, and you got 5 minutes to get airborne. You got, for those of you who don't know, whenever we could possibly in enemy territory, so to speak, in the Indian Ocean, wherever on station, the pilot and the Rio sitting in the airplane, and you might not be strapped in, but you're ready to go because you want to be off of there in 5 minutes. You're on the cat already. You're ready to go. They want you airborne for 5 minutes. You had another alert 15 in gear in the ready room, ready to go up and be airborne in 15 minutes. And we pretty much sat alert 5 and alert 15 all the times we were on station and not, and we didn't have a cycle. We didn't have airplanes airborne. So anyway, back to the story. Rabbit, good pilot. Rabbit takes off and he's out of there. And I actually, when he came back, I said, Rabbit, man, that was a good looking clear and turn. Whenever you take off the ship, you actually do a turn away in case something happens so the ship doesn't run over you. And off the bow cats, you usually turn out this way, and the waist cats are turning out to port if you're looking at the front of the ship. And he said, yeah, man. He said, I used to do that. The F4, the cat shot, I put the gear up because the F4 was a weight on wheels airplane. So if you did that in the F-14, you would blow the tires. It wasn't it wasn't just putting the handle up. You triggered some other aircraft. So I said, in the F4, I used to put the handle up, take the cat shot, and do that. And he said, in this airplane, you have to wait till, he says, right when you get off the end of the ship, and you can tell because it's like, it kicks down, and in about 2 seconds, you're airborne, and then it's, whoo, everything's smooth. And he said, as soon as I feel that, put the gear handle up, and I just wrap the turnip. So Oregon's going to do the same thing. Didn't work out that way. I'm sitting there, and I put the friction up, and it's not a burner shot. It's a mill shot. And below certain weights on the F-14, we would be in military power, and above that, you'd be in burner. And first thing you do in a fighter when you get off the deck is go up 10,000 feet and take on some more fuel for the mission and the cycle. Anyway, so I've got the throttles up and put my hand on the gear handle, and we take a shot, and it kicks down, and we get to the end, and something's not right. It's like, oh, when I see the ship going by up here, and I hear everybody's hollering at me, and I'm just trying to tell my backseater, Denny Gladman, I'm hollering, I got it, And I don't know how close we got to the water. Now, I'm going to explain something real quick. Kind of, the F-14 just started. There's a D10 and to idle cutoff. Same thing for burner. When you get up to the mill power, you go outboard, and then you have 5 zones of afterburner with the throttles. The mill shot, when I put my hand on the gear handle, the damn throttles came back. So when I went to push them forward, this isn't supposed to happen. One of the throttles went around the detent. It didn't shut it down, but I didn't have much time to react. I had to get the throttles back up because the ship's up here, and we're going down toward the water. I'm at idle. And I pushed the throttle up, the one that I had. So we climbed up out of there. I saw it on the plat after. Here we go below the ship, and we climb out, and you see the F-14 climbing out like this. Because I'm single engine, I got boot full of rudder in, and I'm climbing out. You sit there and you go, man, because that could have been it. That could have been my career right there, And I had a good reputation, which helped me because I come back in, I'm feeling, holy shit, how stupid was that? And you're feeling bad. And I know I've got to go talk to the skipper. I mean, that's a given. I wrote the airplane up about the throttle going beyond the detent, but this is totally self-induced, self-inflicted. And I get to the ready room, and skipper's sitting there. He goes, Argan, and Burner talk like that. He goes, so Argan, what happened? And I explained to him what happened, and he looked at me and he goes, don't do it again. And that was it. That was it.
Wow.
It's like,
wow.
Oh, yeah, don't worry, man. Wow. I'm not doing it again. Anyway, another time. This is not self-induced. Top Gun chasing out guys, running out, and we're trying to chase him down to get a shot, get an envelope. And I'm sitting there and I'm full afterburner, hauling ass. And all of a sudden, you get that little feeling, and a shadow went over me. And it's like, ooh, you dug down like that's going to help. And I looked up, I immediately pulled away, and it was I think it was Jim Ray, and he was chasing. Everything ends when you're doing reporter missiles, which we were as the bad guys. We had to be behind the F-14 who was hauling ass running out of the area, and Jambo was doing the same thing and crossed right over the top of me.
Oh, wow!
It's like, oh my goodness. Anyway, when I was at Top Gun as a student in 1981, we were having a good fight. It was a 2v1, so it should have been easy, against the Top Gun A4. And I was coming in like a perch position, coming in, getting ready to prosecute. And same thing, prosecuting this A4, getting ready to shoot. And I feel the same thing, shadow. And this time the airplane physically moved. Continue to fly, shoot the guy, kill him and stuff. We come back to the debrief. Right after I asked Buzz, I said, did you feel something? He said, yeah. He said, I think it was Zappa, our wingman, Dave Zath, and from BF1. And I said, well, it probably had to be. There's only three of us out here, And we went back to the range and looked at it. And I was coming in like this, and Zappa was coming in like this. And you got to understand, we're probably pulling 5 Gs, just to make this happen. And we're probably doing 350 knots coming downhill. And on the tax range, we carry pods on the airplane so we can go back and actually see what we did. It records it for those who don't know. Had a 126-foot miss. He came over the top of me. Now, 126 feet at the speed and G we're going is like this. You can get 100 feet by doing that at that speed. So, man, it would, you have stuff like that happen. We've all had close calls, a number of them. When you do this long enough, you're going to have close calls. And it's just when you sit back after the fact and you go, whoa, thank you, God, because it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, there's some of us that didn't make it through those moments. We've all had buddies that weren't as lucky. On the F-14, we had a vertical display indicator. We had a VDI here. About the same time, that 500-hour point in the machine's country. And I was with, I won't mention Rio's name, but and the guys on the ground said, hey, can you do a high performance? It wasn't high performance. They use a different term, but can you do a high performance takeoff? And I said, we'll talk to Tower and see if we could. If we can, they'll let us. Look like a thin overcast. Mistake number one. Use this to clear unrestricted to 15,000 feet. So I like the burners, and we get to the end of the runway. I held it down. So we go into the goo, and it's thicker than I thought. It's not a thin overcast. It's all the way up. And as I'm sitting there, I get a master caution, which is right in front of me on my instrument cluster here. And we call it ladder lights down here. It tells you what the problem is. So I get a master caution. I look down, and it's a ramp light. The F-14 has programmable ramps, which do it on airspeed. You cannot have supersonic air hitting these engines, so it reduces it. The F-16 does it with the intake, the way the intake's contoured. We actually had ramps that move, as did the F-4. But there's a ramp stow button, so I'm sitting there vertical in the goo. Don't want to blow through 15,000 feet. So I stole the ramp, and I look back, and I start to push the nose over. And nothing's happening. I mean, I'm in the goo, so I can't tell where we're at. And I push the nose over, and I'm still nose high. And I'm going, and man, everything everything slows down, but you go through in a matter of seconds 1,000 different scenarios, and I'm sitting there, oh my God! And I look at the airspeed. My airspeed indicator is still going to 0. So I had a couple of options. I'm sitting there going, okay, I had a VDI data freeze, airplane over. I should be seeing the speed increase. I should be seeing the altitude wind down. At that time, the altitude was still unwinding, even though I was pushing over. Fortunately, I had the presence of mind. We have a peanut gyro, which is down here, way out of the way on the right-hand side. And I looked at my peanut gyro, and my peanut was showing me what I should be doing. The nose is coming down and, doing that. And what had happened was we had multiple failures. We had, of course, the ramp failure. We had pedostatic system failure. The airspeed never increased from 0, so I switched down here to a nav display and got a ground speed readout. So my heart was doing about 1,000 beats a minute, kind of down to 500 beats a minute. And I just felt, okay, we're good. Had the presence of mind to say, ask ATC for a block altitude, because I don't know if we're going to blow through our altitude, because I didn't know where the hell we were for a couple of seconds. And he goes, no, I got the mode C off. So he didn't know what was going on back there. It's all my little world sitting up here. And so I just started talking to ATC at that point in time. Said, hey, we need a block altitude. Yeah, no problem. Go ahead and do it, this and that. And we never got airspeed back. I never got my VDI back until we landed the next base. And I tell you what, it's something you never want to go through, is being caught in the goo without your instruments. And unfortunately, I had the backups, but learned a lesson there too. Now, after that, I've heard of 3 other, well, I'll say 3, 2 for sure. A buddy of mine in VF2, Kent Rominger. Kent went on to have 5 shuttle missions later in his adult life after fighter pilots. And great guy, great pilot. We were on a cross country and it was starting to snow. So I said, Kent, let's get out of here, man. Running rendezvous, did a quick brief, blah, blah, blah. It was at night. Fine, I think. He ends up joining up. Took a little longer than normal. We go to the next base that we land at, and I'd be lying if I told you where it was. But I think we're at Shepherd when we got with the snow coming down. And he goes, man, he said, I almost busted my ass. I said, what happened? He said, I was climbing out on the running rendezvous, and he said, I had to pitch at about 10 degrees. And he said, I felt the sensation of speed. And he said, I looked at my airspeed indicator, and I'm starting to haul ass. And I looked at the peanut gyro, and I'm going toward the ground. So he thinks he's climbing on me, and he's actually going toward the ground. Once again, it was a VDI data freeze. The common thing being both cold weather incidents. I don't know if I mentioned mine, but mine was in addition to the overcast, it was very cold.
Yeah.
Another one happened when a guy out of the Navy Dallas took off, and it was my sister squadron, and they asked him, can you expedite through this altitude for airliner traffic? No problem. Same thing happened. He lights the burner, goes in the goo, VDI data freeze, departs the airplane, and recovers at about 800 feet over the city of Dallas. So
oh my God.
That's 3 that I know of. What I suspect, and look, I hate to do this because I hate to speculate when someone dies, but I don't know if you remember the F-14 in Nashville that took off and crashed into that apartment complex. Mm-hmm. One of the things that they were doing, because they made a big deal of it in Congress, they had congressional hearings and stuff, and I'm sitting there watching, and only switch they found out of place in the crash of the F-14, one of the ramps was stowed. And man, I went back and I should have wrote, in my story and explained that or whatever, but at the time it was already too late. Plus, there's no guarantee that's what happened, because I'm sure they couldn't recover the VDI. But yeah, that was bad. 737, we're taking off, and there's a little twin-engine airplane that I noticed up ahead, and he's taxiing. I don't think anything of it because we had the power, getting ready to take off. And all of a sudden, I see this guy, and it's taxiway Delta. And it was that at that point in time, I had about 130 knots on the airplane, and he keeps coming. He keeps coming onto the runway. And my FO is screaming, stop, stop. Not to me, to that guy. He's screaming for him to stop as if he's going to hear it. And I'm sitting there, I'm pretty busy because it's like, oh man, no, I don't need this today. And I was too fast. I was going to hit him anyway. It was right, I was right there, and he was coming across, and there was nothing we could do. The one thing I did do, I went as far left as I could. And for a nanosecond, and once again, when you have these emergencies, everything slows down.
Yeah. And
for a nanosecond, I'm sitting there thinking, should I take the dirt? Should I just take it off the runway? This guy, you're going to take off and may kill everybody on the airplane. And because of this, or you know what? Do what you can to avoid him. And if he keeps coming, he keeps coming, I mean, and I don't know how close our wingtip came over him, but the 7.3 on that runway, when your center line actually comes over the end of the side of the runway a little bit this way. And that was close. And once again, not self-induced, but that stuff happens. And we didn't end up on the nightly news. So
what did you end up flying throughout your airline career?
727 flight engineer. Then I went back and flew it as went to Dallas and flew the 7.2 in the right seat, and then went back to New Orleans and flew the 7.3 in the right seat. After about a year, I was senior enough to go back to New Orleans and fly the 7.2 out of New Orleans, and as a co-pilot. And then after that, I went to the 11 as a co-pilot and flew that to Europe, and that's when I started doing international flying. And then I went to the left seat of the 737 in. I was flying at 200 in Dallas in the early 7.3 example. Then I went to the N and then 800, and then moved up to the 7.5 and the 7.6. We were dual quad in both of them. And I was thinking about doing 777, and we had a dog that got sick. This is back in 2015, and we had to give her fluids every night. So I went from flying international, and I started doing turns. I started doing mostly Caribbean turns, but maybe the Vegas and back or somewhere that I could do it all within the 8 hours that we had allotted to us to do it. And so that way I was home every night. That's how I ended my career, and was able to help my wife.
So what are you doing now? Like what is, are you flying or anything, or what are we working on?
The fighter pilot days can be pretty brutal, and I've got some neck and back issues. So I actually thought it was my knees. I went to an orthopedic knee guy and said, hey, I'm having some knee issues. I think I told you I'm building a houseboat in South Louisiana, and we were up on the boat, and I beat the hell out of my knees, and it was a hot day, hot week that we're working on it. And I came up to the guy, the orthopedic guy, and I said, I think I'm having some knee issues. So he took pictures of the knees, and he goes, hey, Rick, because we had gotten to a discussion about my past life, and I said it was a fighter pilot. He goes, you mind if I take some pictures of your back? And I said, sure, doc, do whatever you want to do. So he gets the x-rays back, and he gets me in his office, and he goes, man, your knees are not bad for your age. You got a little arthritis here and there, but your back is really messed up.
Yeah, wow.
And I said, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. I flew high performance jets for over 16 years, and I thought it was going to be my neck first. Turns out it was my lower back. So I go to the doctor, and they do an MRI, and in the process, they caught my kidneys. And guess what was in my kidneys? Kidney stones.
Yeah.
Guess what you can't fly with? Kidney stones. So this is back in 19, about a year before I was going to retire anyway, a little over a year. And I lost my medical. So I haven't flown anything since spring of 2019. That's the last time I flew. And it was just by chance, it wasn't even supposed to be catching my kidneys, but they caught that. And when I went to my flight surgeon to get my medical done, he said, I can't approve this. You got kidney stones. And that started that battle. And in the process, they looked and they said, hey man, you got some serious issues here in the middle of your back and the thoracic. So I ended up having surgery on T11, T12 to relieve. I love the snow ski. I'm still active. And he said, I'm worried that if you take a bad fall, it's going to paralyze you. He said, it's really strangling your spine right there, the nerves. But I'm still having my issues with my neck and my back. Are you having any issues by chance?
Oh my God, all kinds, back and neck all the time.
Yeah.
It's just part of the business.
Yeah.
That's just,
It
it's
is.
just part of high G. Oregon, I appreciate you being on the channel. Thanks for telling your story. I know this is going to be multiple videos, so by the time this one airs, people will have seen everything. But man, what a career. A lot of airplanes, a lot of love of flying.
Oh, I had fun, man. It's good. Anybody wants to do this, good luck to you, because there is nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
Awesome.
Been
Thanks
fun.
so much.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Mover.